Um, for anybody who hasn't been here before, basically the class introduction. So basically with this is Silicon Dojo. This is a project I've been working on for a while now. Basically the idea of can you create education, technology education that's simply as accessible as water, right? High-tech education, there's no downside learning this kind of stuff. So what if this was actually just available to people? So the idea is authorityless, gatekeeperless, free to the end user, hands-on technology education that empowers students to do whatever the hell it is that you want to do. And so that's basically what we're trying to do here. Again, free to the end user isn't actually free. The idea is anybody can show up and they can learn. I do still have to get paid. My teeny little office has to get paid for. We're going to be using DonorBox to try to pay for this now with the whole crowdfunding idea. I haven't focused on it a lot for these first few classes just because I have a lot of different things going on right now outside of the frame. But going into the fall, the hope is we're going to be having 2 to 3 classes every single week, plus a number of other things. And so if you want to support what I'm trying to do here, donorbox.org/ETCG. Again, I will be pushing that more going into the future. If you have a question, raise your hand in Zoom. Raise your hand. Let's get this wrong. It's right there. Again, some people actually literally raise their hand, and this is Zoom. That doesn't work. So raise your hand that way if you have a question. Copyright, everything that I do here, basically, what I'm doing here, this is only one of the things, one of the products that's being created. The real product that I'm trying to create is all of the material and the concept and the workflow and how this kind of stuff is done. So everything that I create here, basically you can use, unless it's specifically intellectual property, like my logo or something like that. Don't be stupid about it. But the code samples, the notes, all of that kind of stuff, you can use. You can make money off of. If you're in Mozambique and you create a whole curriculum off of what I've created and you charge for it, that is perfectly fine. Tippy tap or die. A lot of people think to learn technology, they can sit back and they don't actually have to do anything. They will just learn. And that's not how it works. You have to actually do the stuff. So every single class that we do, we're going to have 3 to 5 labs. Generally 3, to be honest with you. You should try to do all of these labs. Understanding commas, understanding closing crap, understanding the difference between single quotation marks and double quotation marks and all that kind of stuff. That is going to be what makes you an actual programmer, not watching these classes. Extra help, if you need extra help, w3schools.com is absolutely terrific. And ChatGPT, um, you know, many times it's good. If you want to know how to do a loop, ChatGPT is great. I will warn you with ChatGPT, though, is it very confidently answers questions incorrectly. So one of the things today is I was just doing some auditing of my code or whatever to verify I was doing some things right. Uh, and literally, ChatGPT told me I was doing the OpenAI API call wrong. And the documentation for OpenAI is like open in the other screen. And it's like, but the documentation is right there. And so ChatGPT is good, but do be careful with it. Standardization. So basically with everything we do here is we try to use VS Code with the default settings. Makes life easier. Again, if you are doing your work, during the lab time and you need some help, I can pull everything up on the screen and I can try to support you. If you're using VS Code, it makes it a lot easier for me to understand what's going on. If you're using Notepad, I will try to do my best, but you know, sitting there looking at black and white is a bit of a pain in the butt. Trolls. So this is a new slide. This is a new slide from last week. So we've been going along pretty well. So we did like 8 classes. I don't know, we did a number of classes. We had no trolls. No trolls, kind of like cockroaches. We had none until we did. So I got pretty confident last week. Things have been going so well. I allowed you all to unmute yourselves at will and the whole 9 yards. And of course, that was the day the trolls showed up. And yeah, trolls. What do you do about trolls? It's a pain in the butt. So basically, my thing with dealing with trolls is you guys are all now blocked from saying anything. You cannot just unmute yourself when you want to make life easier. And then the chat, because the person decided to do stupid stuff in chat last time, what I can do is I can actually just shut off chat. So if I'm sitting here and I'm looking at chat and chat goes stupid, I will simply turn off chat, and that's how we're going to do things for a little while until I can figure out a better solution. So again, as I try to say with the problems that we come up with, I see the problem. I understand that it is a problem. Damn it. This is not why I earned my MCSE. Anyways, we will try to figure that out. So, okay, let's get over to OpenAI. So the OpenAI API with Python introduction. So basically, this is really cool. A lot of times when people are talking about OpenAI right now, they're talking about ChatGPT. And ChatGPT is fine, don't get me wrong, but you know, it's for users. It's for users, right? You know, the quote that came from the physical Silicon Dojo when I was doing that is, you know, bro, do you even eat API? Right? Do you even lift? Um, the thing is, when you're using ChatGPT, basically this is a platform that has been created for you by OpenAI, where you have the inputs, it gives you the outputs, it does all kinds of stuff behind the scenes, and that's it, right? It's basically if you go to Google, if you go to any other kind of web app, that's basically the experience that you get with ChatGPT. It's great, again, especially for normal people, but especially for technology professionals. One of the questions that you have to ask yourself is, okay, but how can I use this? How can I customize this functionality to actually build this in to my own infrastructure? Again, if you're going to be a technology professional, I really want you to understand this. It is not about whether or not technology is cool. It's not about whether or not you're passionate about it. If you are a professional, it's whether or not you can get paid from it. And I know that sounds like a joke, hee hee ha ha, but no, it really is serious, right? You know, ChatGPT. A CEO does not need to pay you $150 an hour to set up ChatGPT accounts. Again, I remember when it was a hosted exchange 15 years ago came online. And that eviscerated a lot of people's jobs because instead of running a massive exchange server that costs $20,000 or $30,000, you could have a secretary go to Hosted Exchange, which is an email service, set up somebody's account, set up somebody's quotas, and that was it, right? So you look at ChatGPT, and one of the important things to be thinking about for yourself is it's like, okay, yeah, no, this is cool technology, but how can I actually get paid from it? And that's a cool part about the API is once you can start dealing with the API, you can start building customized systems that are sure as hell worth $150 or more per hour to your customers, to the executives or whatever else. So basically, with this, again, like we've been going along with Python, and so with Python, you can do a lot of cool things, right? You can interact with APIs, you can interact with the operating system. We did that before. You can create full-fledged web apps. So here's the thing to be thinking about: instead of your boss going to ChatGPT and asking it questions, what if you could create an entirely customized web app that was specifically designed for your vertical, the industry that the company that you're dealing with is in, with all the rules and modifications specifically for that company? So starting to think about quote unquote artificial intelligence and not as a product, but as a feature that you can implement into whatever solutions that you're going to try to be deploying. Let's see here. The only constant is change. Yeah, this kind of sucked doing this class. So I started doing these classes. Again, we had the physical version of Silicon Dojo. We had it for a year, started about a year and a half ago. Anyways, started doing these OpenAI classes about a year and a half ago with the API. And one of the interesting things is that the API keeps consistently changing. It wasn't too big a deal before, right? So when I had the physical classroom, every month or so, I would do one of these classes and I kept up to date with it. Haven't messed with this for 4 or 5, 6 months at this point. Went back again. Basically, this was supposed to be a very simple class for me to do. Tippy tap type some stuff out, do some examples, the whole 9 yards. It shouldn't be a big issue until things that had done things before were no longer doing the things that they had done before. So we're going to get into this in a few minutes. There's something called roles whenever you're making the request to OpenAI. There's a system role, what's called an assistant role, and a user role. Before, the assistant roles were very important, um, and you dumped a lot of stuff into those assistant roles. Well, they modified things over the past number of months, and assistant roles no longer do what assistant roles used to do. And one of the things that's important about this is understand this has changed in about 6 months. So one of the things you have to be thinking about is if you're going to be deploying OpenAI's API into your infrastructure and their API changes, possibly, every half a year or more, that can create what we call quirks in the technology world, right? If you write code that's supposed to do something, and then one day they change their API and your code no longer does what it literally did yesterday, all kinds of insanity can ensue. So do be careful about this with OpenAI's API. Again, I've been seeing this for a year and a half. They do modify, they do change things relatively quickly, and some of the things that they're changing are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Let's see here. Just thing to be careful about is that ChatGPT doesn't know OpenAI. So again, that's the whole thing with intelligence. ChatGPT is so smart. To be clear, it is not so smart. So I was auditing some code, again, trying to verify that I'd written the code the way it was supposed to. When you make a request, it's client.images.generate. This is literally from the documentation on OpenAI for how you're supposed to do this request. And basically, ChatGPT says the OpenAPI method images.generate does not exist. So literally, ChatGPT doesn't know how OpenAI works. So be careful with that. Real world. When we're dealing with AI, it is important to understand that this is not actually artificial intelligence. This is one of those weird things that's become religious at this point, just like politics. Remember when politics used to be pretty normal? Now it's gone insane. The same thing is true with AI. Like, I've never gotten into big arguments about Twilio before. There's never been a time where I got into a screaming match about REST APIs because nobody cared. There's something weird about AI. When people start talking about AI, things get very serious very quickly. I have to be careful about this in the normal world. I don't talk about AI. I don't talk about politics or AI in the normal world anymore because I just don't like the headache. But it's important to understand with all this stuff, I am not trying to be whatever here. Artificial intelligence is not actually artificial intelligence, or at least this crap. If there is AI, it's not this horse crap. What we're dealing with is LLMs. And so it's important to understand fundamentally what is going on here. Basically, the basic concept here, right? Because one of the things we hear with LLMs, right, large language models, is this whole idea. Why is the LLM racist? Why is it sexist? Why is it unsafe or whatever else? And it's none of those things. The LLM is not racist. It's not sexist. It's not good. It's not evil. It's basically just a big ass equation, right? So when you're dealing with these LLMs, really what you're dealing with is the association between tokens. And this is important. We're not going to get in today because it gets a little bit more complicated to show you. But if you ever deal with LLMs and you can turn on, there's a mode called streaming. And what streaming mode does is it actually shows you how the LLM is chunking everything out. But one of the things you're going to see there is that when let's say you have a sentence like, I don't know. What is the size of Earth? My lovely handwriting there. That's all Zoom resolution. That's not my horrible handwriting. Anyways, right? What is the size of Earth? The important thing to understand with this particular question is that the LLM does not know what this question is. It doesn't know what any of these words mean. None of this means anything to it. Right? Basically, what it does is it tokenizes this sentence, or it tokenizes what is called the request. When you make a request, and what that is basically a token is either a word, a part of a word, or a symbol. right? So what would be a token, is would be a token, the would be a token, size would be a token, of would be a token, earth would be a token, and question mark would be a token. If you have multi-syllable words, those would actually generally be broken in to multiple tokens. So one word is a token. Well, then what your computer does is it takes these and it figures out the mathematical relationship. How often is after what? What is most likely to be after the word what? If you have what it is, what is most likely to be after the word what it is, or the token what is, right? Because basically what happens is what gets turned into token, let's say 1008 is gets turned into token 10. The size of will get token into two, right? Basically, it gets turned into all these numbers. And so what it's really doing is it's saying, okay, statistically, what is the relationship between token 1008 and token 10? What is the relationship between this token and this token? What is the relationship, right? And this all gets put back into generally something called a vector database. Vector databases are cool. We will have classes on them, God knows when, because that just gets into a whole new world, right? You know about relational databases, maybe you know about them. Anyways, you may know about NoSQL databases, that type of thing. Basically, what a vector database is it stores data based off of the relationship that data has to other bits of data. So anyways, right? All this crap gets tokenized now. So then when you make a request, right? It goes back to its vector database and it just statistically tries to figure out what tokens should, go over. So basically, it would say, okay, well, if he says, what is the size of, then it would say, okay, well, let's say token 265 would go by token 1050 would be by token 165, whatever. It's much more complicated than this, right? And basically what it does is it creates an answer for you of tokens. But tokens, kind of like IP addresses, don't really matter, right? It's about human. So it then goes, okay, what is answer 265? You go, okay, well, that is the, what is token size? What is this token of? What is this token earth? What is this token is? What is this token? And then it plugs in a number. So this is basically what we're dealing with LLMs. So it has nothing to do with intelligence. It has everything to do with incredibly sophisticated math problems. Now you sit here and you're like, okay, well, that's great. Eli just espoused about vector databases. What does this have to do with this particular class or anything related to the technology world? Well, the big thing to be thinking about is when you're designing systems with something like an API, you need to be thinking about that overall system. Again, we talk about stacks. We talk about stacks. And so when you build a quote unquote AI stack, one of the things you have to understand is OpenAI is one layer of that stack. Where is the data coming in from in order to get to OpenAI? How was that data sanitized and cleaned up before it got to OpenAI? When you get a response back from OpenAI, do you have any kind of correction system? Again, if you have an AI system in the modern world, anytime, any of the words, right? You should just have a black list filter that if OpenAI spits out or any AI spits out any word, like those words just go the hell away, right? Again, there's all these kinds of things that you need to be thinking about for how you're going to be building that AI type system. We're going to have many more classes about it. But I think if you start looking at it this way, all of this technology starts making a hell of a lot more sense. Again, it's that whole thing, back when I used to do computer support, and people would be like, Eli, why does my computer hate me? And Windows 95 didn't hate you. It was just a garbage operating system. So yeah. It's not racist. LLM is a single component, an intelligent system. And again, intelligent, what does that actually mean? Again, people throw these words around. Intelligence. What does intelligence mean? if you look at a human being, right, a human being, part of us is lived experience. A rock doesn't live. Silicon doesn't live. Can you have intelligence without life? Yeah, these are actual things you need to think about, especially if you're going to be throwing around AI. When you start building this kind of thing, again, then you need to start thinking about architecture. That's what we're kind of start talking about here again, that whole idea of stack. So again, caching mechanisms is an important idea. So we're going to have a class on that. I did a class on it, Eli the Computer Guy before, where basically when you make a request to whatever AI system and it provides a response back, one of the things to be thinking about is caching both that request and that response. And one of the reasons that you can do that, again, when you start building these overall systems, is if you cache it, then you can actually go back and you can audit what the hell responses you're getting back from your AI, right? Because that's one of the big problems we have right now is there's this whole like logless system we have going on where people are making requests and they're getting responses and nobody knows what the hell is going on. Well, one of the things with like caching mechanism is you can actually monitor what's going on. And the other thing with the caching mechanism is you can then modify what the response is, right? So if you ask OpenAI something and it gives back a bad response, one of the things you can do if you have a local database or if you have a database that you own that you're using as caching mechanism, you can actually go in and modify the response there within that database. And then the next time somebody makes the exact same request, they will pull the value from the database rather than from going up to OpenAI. Again, the databases, how you're going to be training systems, and then again with architecture, service-oriented architecture. We talk about service-oriented architecture a lot, especially with Python, because again, with these API calls, the whole thing with a service-oriented architecture is that you have a service, it's essentially in a box, your script is communicating with that box, and if you decide, I don't like that box, you can go to somebody else's, right? If you don't want to use Twilio anymore, you can simply go and get another API credential from another vendor, and you can start using that other vendor for SMS messages. Again, one of the things to be thinking about with AI is how do you make sure that you're really designing this as a service-oriented architecture. So if OpenAI is no longer providing you the quality of service that you want, you can swap over to Claude. Or you can swap over to Llama. You can actually run something locally. These are some of the things to be thinking about. Let's see here. Pricing and context windows. So pricing is going to be a big deal. One of the big issues that you have with OpenAI is it's incredibly inexpensive. It is just dirt cheap. If it's dirt cheap, why is that a problem? Because whenever anything is dirt cheap, people use way too damn much of it, and then it ends up being a $10,000 bill. That's one of the things I've talked about before is like with things like while true loops. While true loop is again a loop in Python. Basically, it just keeps going and going and going and going. We use a lot of while true loops in our labs just because it gives us a nice little interface for doing things. One of the problems is, again, if you have information coming in, somehow it goes through a while true loop. Imagine, right? If it costs a fifth of a penny, let's say, for an OpenAI request, and you run it once, it costs you a fifth of a penny. What happens if you run that request every minute? Well, that means every hour, it's going to cost you about a penny. So it'll be 25 cents a day. Ooh, 25 cents a day, right? Think about that. Every minute, if you run a request every minute, and it's up being 25 cents a day, again, probably not a big deal, but that starts to be money. What happens if you run the request every second? What happens if you run the request many, 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 many times per second? That is when everything can go to hell. Let me go here and take a look at the pricing. Open the link. Basically, this is what we start looking at here and something to think about. So there's models. So whenever you're talking about using like OpenAI, there are many different models. You may have heard of 3.0, 3.5, 4, and now they have the 4.0 model. These models are supposed to get better and better and better the farther along you go. And so they have different price points. So if we come here and we look at, let's say, the GPT 4.0 model, basically we come here and it starts getting weird. So, right, so For 1,000 tokens. So the way to think of 1,000 tokens, because again, a token, what is a token? On average, 1,000 tokens is 750 words. Now, when you calculate the cost for tokens, right, there's going to be a cost for the amount of information being sent up to ChatGPT, and there's going to be a cost for the amount of information that's sent down. So again, that's one of the reasons you want to think about things like caching mechanisms. Even if every request is only a fifth of a penny, if you could save that request locally, so you're just hitting your local database instead of going up to OpenAI, that might make a lot of sense. So with GPT 4.0, so this is their latest model. So it's point, right? 0.0. So it is a quarter of a penny. Not a quarter, not a penny. It's a quarter of a penny for every approximately 750 words that you upload in a request. The output token, so this has changed. This input and output cost used to be identical. They now modified it because that's how it goes. So output tokens now are 1 penny per 750 words. So it's much less expensive to put data up into their API than it is to pull data out of their API. And that's going to be one of the things to be thinking about. They also now have this batch API thing that might actually be interesting for you. So this pricing is what we're going to be doing today. We make a request, and then basically in real time, the request goes up, it processes the request, it sends it down. That's this price. They now have this batch, and basically with the batch, it gets even less expensive. So it's about half the cost, literally half the cost. And with this batch, what happens is you make the request, and then in up to 24 hours, they send you the response back. Do make sure you set up your systems properly in order to deal with that. The value for this, though, might be, let's say if you're going through and you're indexing things like digital records. So let's say, so if you're having a real-time thing, you want your user to communicate in near real time, you use this price point. What if you just want to go through and again, you want to do something with record digitization of a hospital or some kind of organization like that, where it's just going to be processing for the next 5 weeks, regardless of whatever you do, right? So the batch pricing might actually make a lot more sense there. So that's one of the things to think about. They have Vision. We're not actually going to go into Vision today. They have the GPT 4.0 Mini. So it's their most cost-effective small model that's smarter and cheaper than 3.5 and has Vision capabilities. This model has a 128,000 token context and an October 2023 knowledge cutoff. That is going to be one of the things you need to be thinking about these APIs is when is their information cut off. So this was cut off back in October 2023, almost a year ago now. But if you take a look at this, I don't even know what this works out to. It's 15% of a penny. So this is 15% of a penny for input, and this is 6% of a penny. I don't know. It gets really ridiculous. Really, really cheap if you use that particular model. You go through and they have the different old models. You can do the prices. Anyways, Dolly is what we're going to be dealing with in a little bit. And what we can see is for a standard 10 by 24, that costs you 4 cents per image. For larger sizes, that'll cost you 8 cents per image. So this is some of the stuff just to kind of keep in mind while you're using this API, like thinking about the pricing. And again, thinking about it at scale. When you're doing these in the labs, through the healthcare, so you put $5 into the account, you're done. Again, if your startup or if your business is actually using this, I do know people who are literally paying out tens of thousands of dollars a month for this API. So it's something to keep in mind. The context window up here, we talked about the context window. So this isn't as important as it used to be. Generally, hopefully, or unless you're about to spend a lot of money. So back when I started teaching these classes, the context window was 4K, 4,000 tokens. And basically what the context window means is how many tokens in total can you use for this request? For this, the tokens going up and it's the tokens going down, right? So when you had 4,000 tokens, you could actually run into a limit relatively quickly. Because 4,000 tokens is about 3,000 words-ish. So there's a lot of search situations where you'd run into a problem with you need more than 3,000 words. When you look at 128,000 tokens, I don't know, that comes out to something like 100,000 words per request that you can process. So that's a metric crap ton of words. And it's also expensive, right? If you're processing 128,000 tokens a shot, again, that whole fifth of a penny times 128,000 starts to get bloody expensive. So that's one of the things just to keep in mind. So for most of you, these context windows are not going to be a big deal. Where it will become a problem, though, again, we start looking at costs, is you really need to be thinking about what data you're sending up to OpenAI and what you're going to be paying for. So I ran into this interesting issue back when I originally did the original versions for web scraping with AI classes, again, about a year ago. And so the first thing that I did was I used the get function from the requests module to get basically an entire web page, and then I tried to ship that entire web page up to OpenAI and ask OpenAI questions about that web page. And it failed. It failed because it hit that 4,000 token context mark. Because one of the things I wasn't thinking about is all of the JavaScript, all of the CSS, all of the coding you do not see. So you go to Ars Technica and you see a 600-word blog post, and you're thinking 600 words. Well, if you send that entire actual web page up, it might be 20,000 words, 30,000 words, something like that. So one of the things that you do need to be thinking about with this context window is you most likely will not hit a limit on the context window. But if you do not think about pre-processing your data, cleaning up your data before you ship it up to OpenAI, you may get a very expensive bill. So like when we do the web scraping class with OpenAI, we'll use something called Beautiful Soup. So Beautiful Soup will go in, it will grab just everything within the P tag, again, 600 words, and then we'll process based off of 600 words. 600 words is going to cost us a fifth of a penny. Where again, if we use Git, we get everything in that web page and we ship it up. We'll get a good answer back, but instead of it costing us a fifth of a penny, it may cost us 10 cents, again, per request. So that's when we start talking about things like architecture and the systems that are being designed. That's some of the stuff that you have to think about. Let's see here. If you do hit the limit, the context limit, which you shouldn't, hopefully. The weird thing about it is it will literally stop in the middle of a sentence. It doesn't error out because they want to charge you. They do want to charge you. So they give you everything. What will just happen is if you hit that 128,000 token mark, it'll be writing and then it just literally cuts off in the middle of the sentence. And then you just got billed for 128,000 tokens. And two, and now you have to figure out a better way of making a request. So do be careful with that. Let's see here. In order to start working with OpenAI, one of the things you're going to need to do is in Python, you run Python 3. So this is the standard way that we're going to be installing modules here at Silicon Dojo. Apparently, this is supposed to be the proper way of making sure your modules get dumped into the right environment. We'll go with it. Anyways, Python 3 space -m pip install, and basically all you're going to be doing is installing the OpenAI module. You run through, it's simple. If you installed a module with pip before, that's basically all you do. You go through it. Let's see here. The rest of it, it does get a little wonky. Let's get a little wonky. So go and take a look at the documentation. So basically, in order to get the API key, where is it? So what you'll need to do to get these accounts is you go to openai.com. You don't go to chatgpt.com, you go to openai.com. From here, you go up to products. You then do login, API login, and that will take you to the page for you to actually be able to create your account. Right. Basically, once you create your account, you'll be able to get into a page that looks like this, I think initially when you get dumped in here, you will be at a playground where you can type some messages in. This looks a lot like ChatGPT, but it gives you some additional settings and things for you to play around with to try to fine tune the kind of results that you want to get. Once you get into here, one of the things you're going to need to do is the budgeting and the billing. Oh, where am I going? There we go. We click on the gear thing. This is not designed well. This was designed by Linux administrators, I've got to say. Anyways, you come in here. Hopefully, you can't do anything to my ID. They have billing information here. They have limits, so they tell you what your token limits are, like per day. 5,000 requests per minute, that type of thing. That shouldn't be any big issue. One of the big things, though, is the actual limits for how much you can spend. So you can create projects. So with this is one of the cool features now that they didn't have before. Instead of just having one big account, you can actually have multiple projects within your account. So you click on this. You can click on that particular project, and in here you can do things like you can set limits. So my monthly budget on my test project is $3. So you're going to want to do this again, especially if you're playing with those wild fruit loops. If you set your monthly budget to $3, you hit the $3 mark, then requests will not continue. If you forget to actually put in a limit, all hell can break loose. If you go up here, you click on this, you can go to Organization Overview. An organization overview then gives you the information for your overall organization. So I have my different projects here. I can see the spend here. I can see the limits or a lack of limit there. We can do, let's see here, usage. That shows us the usage. We do the API key. So the API key, this is what you're going to need. So you can come here and basically, you can see I created a few API keys here. You go up to create new secret key, click on that. You put in a name of what you want the secret key to be, and then you'll do create secret key. I'm not going to do this because I don't want to get hacked. You do this, it'll give you a key. You need to copy that immediately. Once it has created the key and you hit OK, you can never get that key back. Basically, what'll happen is once you've hit OK, this is the only amount of information you'll receive about that key going into the future. So you need to copy that key, paste it into a safe location so that you can then use it going forward. Past that, let's see here, docs, there's the quick start guide. This is a bit of a quirk. I'm going to have to write some better documentation, honestly, for this particular class once we get done here. This gives you information. Again, basically the quick start guide for how to start this in Python. One of the big things is the environment variables. Set up your key for all projects. So go to Mac OS or you can go to Windows. They have some information here. Basically, for this system that I'm using as a demonstration today to work, this is what I had to use. So basically, since OpenAI, since this is supposed to be used on production and production environments, they don't want you to put the API key directly into your project. So you can put your API key directly into your project and just call it from the project that you're doing. What they prefer, what is the better way of doing things, is actually for you to create an environment variable. So basically, this is an environment variable that sits on your computer. Basically, the API is simply going to call that environment variable and use that environment variable for when they make the call to OpenAI. Why this is useful is so that when you're doing your code, right? Let's say you're doing this particular code. The thing that's useful here is basically I just call my OpenAI function and I don't put the API key in the script. So if I decide to upload this or I decide to save this to GitHub, nobody's going to come through and steal my API key. That is going to be one of the big things. Again, if you're going to be coding, you should be using GitHub, and we're going to be using a lot of APIs. So be very careful with your API keys. never, never, never upload one of your scripts with an API key in it up to GitHub. There are bots out there that scrape for that kind of thing. And yes, you will get a very expensive credit card bill very quickly. But anyways, if you want to go through, so this is, again, you're the OpenAI. So we were at the dashboard. Well, I don't know where we were. So you start at the playground. Again, this is a horrible design. This is a god-awful design. Anyways, you come here for the docs. You go to docs, or is that, or no? So you go to, I'm sorry, you go to API reference. There you go. We go to API. No, wait a minute. I'm sorry. No, we go to docs. Maybe I'm just bad. We go to docs. We go to quick start guide. From quick start guide, then you can go through here and try to set up your system so this works properly. Again, a bit of a pain in the ass. Beyond that, again, there is all the documentation here. That's very useful. Again, you can go to the API reference. So one nice things with the API reference is for whatever you're trying to do. So you can do audio, you can do chat, you can do embeddings, you can do files, you can do images, a whole bunch of different things. So basically you can come here and you can select on things and it will give you actual information about how to write everything out. So they've actually got relatively decent documentation here for if you're trying to figure out how to do things going into the future. Let's see. Any questions up until this point in time? Just trucking along. Okay. The API key. Again, it can either be a standard variable or the environment variable. The right way of doing it is the environment variable. Yeah, that did not work. That goes away. So we take a look at this. Basically, this is the first script, right? And so I have my API key set up as an environment variable on this particular computer, so I don't have to have my API key anywhere in this script. So I can simply do client equals the OpenAI function, and this will grab the environment variable, and then it'll be able to make the request. If you actually do want to copy and paste your API key directly into the script, which is the easiest way of doing things. Like if you want to start playing with things today, this is definitely the easiest way to do it. You would simply do, let's say, basically a variable name of some sort. So OpenAI key. You would then plug in what that key is that you got from OpenAI. Then for here, we do client equals OpenAI. API underscore key equals that variable name. So that's basically where we're putting the key in. And then from there, everything else would be the same. So basically, this is how you can do it if for whatever reason the environment variable is causing problems, which is a real possibility. Let's see here. It's the API key. So the chat request. So basically, when we're going to do a chat request, we're going to need to do the import the OpenAI module. So from OpenAI import OpenAI. Again, it's one of those weird things with the Python, or yeah, in the Python world. Sometimes you look at stuff, like who wrote this? So I'm from OpenAI, all lowercase. I'm going to import OpenAI that's capitalized in the beginning. Anyways, naming conventions kind of suck sometimes. Anyways, we're going to do that. You're going to set the API key. We're going to choose the model, and then we're going to look at the parsing return, basically, or how to parse the return that comes back. So we take a look at this again. So OpenAI module has already been installed from, again, this is so stupid. OpenAI, all lowercase, import OpenAI with some uppercase in there. So that's the function within that module. Yeah. Client equals, and so we're going to reference client down here when we're actually doing things. So client equals, and this is where we call that OpenAI function that we brought in. So again, since the environment variable is set, we don't have to do anything else other than call the OpenAI function. If the environment variable wasn't set, that's where you put the API key down here. And then we're going to do this. So basically completion equals, and so client, right, basically that connection, .chat, .completions, .create. That's just what it is. We're going to say what model that we're going to use. So again, all those different models, 3.5 turbo, 4, 4.0, 4.0 mini, whatever else, that's what we're going to plug in here. And again, that's where you got to think about pricing and all kinds of other stuff. Then we're going to have messages. Messages is where we put in the role information. And again, this has changed over the past 6 months or so. So you have the system role. And basically the system role is what is the character this script is going to play, right? Is it the king? Is it the peasants? Is it the knights? Basically what you're saying is, who the hell are you? Right? Because think about it, there's a tone of voice, right? A king is going to say things in a different way than a professor would or a mechanic would or whatever else. So you can put in some just lame crap like I like putting in. You are a helpful assistant. Helpful, emphasis on the helpful. And that's basically all you're doing. You're saying this is the character that you're playing. Then you have the next role user, and content equals, this is where you put the query in. This is what you put in the request that you're making of OpenAI. What are you asking for? And that's basically all this is. So you are a helpful assistant. I am telling you hello, respond. That's really what it is, right? So when we take a look at this, we then need to take a look at parsing the responses. So if I when I print these stars out, these are just to make it easier to separate out for you to actually take a look at the responses. Now, what you'll notice here is that this looks a lot like JavaScript. So again, we talk about changes. Right, back in the 3.5 turbo world, these responses, the way you parse them, looked like a normal REST response part, the way that you do it, right? You'd use a square bracket, so square bracket, single quotation mark choices, close square bracket, 0, square bracket, single quotation mark message, close square bracket, the whole 9 yards. They modified this again about 6 months ago. They started using it this way, and this is more that JavaScript fashion. This is why when we were doing the REST API class, I had a bit of a hiccup when somebody asked me whether you could do the JavaScript way of parsing JSON in Python versus what I was showing you that day. And one of the reasons I got a little bit confused is like, well, crap, I don't think you can, but OpenAI does it. What this actually turns out to be is this is actually a specific class. This is something that's for the OpenAI API, and they designed it this way. So this is not a normal way that you would parse something like a JSON response. It just happens to be how you do things here. So let me do this real quick. So I'll basically comment everything out, and we'll just get the completion. So completion equals this request, and we're just going to get the whole completion back. I'm going to do this. Takes a second. So this is going to be the whole completion that we get back. Chat completion, this is the ID for that completion. Choice is equal, you get a square bracket, choice, finish reason, index 0, none, message equals, chat completion, all of that kind of stuff, right? So basically this is the whole thing that you get back. And it more or less kind of sort of looks like that kind of set, that JSON type of response that you'll get back before. But obviously this type of thing, we can't really do a whole hell of a lot with. All right, so what we can do is can uncomment that out, and then we run this. And so this is the entire completion. So here's where we're going to go to completion.choices, index 0, message, right? And so this is the default. If you look at the example that they give you, this will be the example that they give you. And when you run this, though, it's better, but not great. So right, this is the original completion. And this is when we just print out message. So chat completion message, content equals, hi there, how can I assist you? Blase, blase. So that's better. That's not great. Again, we need to get it down to text as much as possible. And so that's where if you go here, right? So basically you go to completion, dot choices, index 0, dot message, dot content. Then you can actually get just the message that you're looking for. And it kind of show you the same thing. If you want the total token number, so in that completion response, we got how many tokens was used. So you might want to record this so you have an idea of how much you're spending. So you can go completion.usage.total tokens, and it'll show you the total tokens used. So we do this again, and that's what we got, right? So here's the entire completion. Here's the message from the completion. Then here is the actual content of the message. Hi there, how can I assist you? And that took 29 tokens. Finally, at the end, I actually then did type. I printed out the type of the response. That's one of the things that you can do is if you're trying to figure out what the hell's going on with the script, what type of variable value you're getting back. If you do type and then whatever the variable name is, you can get back what type it is, what data type. And that is where you get this weird ass. It's a class of OpenAI types.chat completion, blah, blah, blah. So basically, again, as I say, this is not a standard way of parsing responses back uh, from APIs. And so that kind of walks you through, right? So completion messages, so see content, right? Yeah, so completion dot choices, index 0, message, content, content. And again, that's going to be a lot of trial and error there. The nice part about this, again, is it's trial and error until you figure it out. And then once you figure it out, it's done. You don't have to worry about it anymore until OpenAI changes something. Does everybody have, a relatively feel comfortable with that? Cool. Okay. Let's see here. So we'll go to roles. So what I showed you before. So again, the system is the character of the response, the king, the peasant, whatever else. User is user comments to OpenAI. So there still is an assistant role. So the assistant role used to be how you would guide the response, right? Be suave or say dude or something like that, right? The assistant role used to be a way to guide the response. So it wasn't really adding additional information. It was just supposed to be, again, a way to give a little flavor. That's gone away. The assistant role now, it gets much more complicated. We're not going to go into today. It allows you to save data from previous queries to add that to the next query. So that's changed. The user role now is basically where you add everything else. This isn't how it used to be. Basically, with the user role, this is where you can actually give ChatGPT numerous instructions for basically how the request should be handled. And I'll show you more of that as we go along. Let's see here. So models, again, there's all those different models, 3.5 turbo, 4, 4.0, the whole 9 yards. One of the things to realize is each model will respond differently. Sometimes worse models will actually respond better. So I don't have a lot of experience with 4.0 and 4.0 mini at this point. Again, when I was doing a lot of this before, I was using the 4 model and the 3.5 turbo model. One of the things I was actually truly surprised about is many times the 4 model was worse for the response that I got back than the 3.5 turbo model. I actually found the responses I got back from the 3.5 turbo model about 6 months ago were superior to the 4 model. And so that's one of the things you've got to keep in mind. Again, you got to be thinking about when you build out your system, which model do you actually want to use. You can use loops. You can use loops in order to determine which model is giving you the best response. So we can do the model variation script. If I can find it, model variation script. Okay. So this is the roles, as I was talking before. When we start adding roles, this is what you can do to start molding the kind of response that you're going to be getting back from OpenAI. So role system. You are a surfer. The character you're playing is surfer, right? And then on top of that, you can add additional stuff. Role user. So these used to be assistant roles. They're now user roles. Just keep that in mind. So role user content, always say dude. So whenever I get a response back, I always want you to say dude. But think about this from a branding perspective, right? If you're creating an AI app for McDonald's or whatever company, again, what's the salutation that app should be using? This is where you can kind of code that thing in. Um, let's see, role user, always say in your reply with later man. So whenever you're ending, say later man. Role, answer in 30 words or less. So this is an important thing to be thinking about. Realize with AI can be very verbose. And remember, the longer the response you get back, the more money OpenAI is going to charge you. So, so literally, like you're trying to get like very basic responses back, you can just tell them, I want this to be 30 words, or I want this to be 10 words, or I want this to be 1,000 words, right? If you're trying to do blog posts, you might want it to be 1,000 words. If you're just trying to get a simple response back, you may want it to be 10 words. Just to kind of show you idiotic things that you can put in there, user content, relate it to a bird. So whatever question I ask you, how does it relate to birds? And it does do it some of the time. And then finally here, and this is what we're going to do for a lot of our things, is we basically have a variable value. So this is the query. So we have a variable called query. This is going to be the actual question that we're positing to OpenAI, and that's we're going to plug it in at the end here. So basically, if we take a look at this from OpenAI, import OpenAI, client equals OpenAI, query, how big is the sun? Again, you just put in whatever idiotic question you have. Here, we're going to be doing a for loop for the different models to show you what the different responses are. So we have GPT model equals GPT 4.0, 4.0 mini, 4, and 3.5 turbo. So all 4 of these models are currently available. We do a for loop here. So for version in that list, basically we have the completion with all of this, right? So the model is the version, right? So GPT, model, version, model, version. So basically we're going to go GPT 4.0, 4.0 mini, 4, and 3.5. We're going to loop through. It's going to keep asking it, how big is the sun? That's going to be the question. We are then going to print out here the version. So we're going to print out what version it is, and then we're going to print out what the message content is, right? So how big is the sun? We are going to run this, and the answer will be, dude. Okay, hold on. I've got to get into character here. Okay, so we got the 4.0 model. Dude, the sun is like one massive fiery seagull to a bird. You can see it from 1 billion surfs away later, man. So what did I say? Always say dude, end with later man, relate it to a bird, right? So 4.0 did the job. 4.0 mini, dude, the sun's about 864,000 miles wide, which would fit about 1.3 million Earths inside. It's like a giant seagull soaring through the cosmos later, man. Right? Okay, so it said that. 4, dude, the sun's massive. It's like 1 million Earths. Just like an albatross compared to a sparrow, it's wild, man. Catch you on the flip later, man. So I said later, man. Um, oh, wow. Anyways, so it is generative AI. Every time you do it, it gives you a different answer. So it's now giving me all correct answers. So, dude, the sun is super massive, like majestic albatross soaring through the air. Its diameter is about 864,000 miles. Later, man. So anyways, so these are the 4 different responses. And of course, OpenAI is laughing at me because they all do what the hell they're supposed to do. Let's see if we put in a different query to see if we'll do it. Because that's the thing, like when I was doing this testing before, the interesting thing was different models would not give the response that they were supposed to. Let's see here. I don't know. What is a snail? Because I come up with the real brainiac questions here. And so this is one of those things with testing. You go through when you test and you see where the responses are to see which ones you like. Let's see. 4-0. Dude, a snail is like a bird grounding. Later, man. Dude, a snail is like a soft-bodied mollusk with a hard shell, moving slowly and leaving a slime trail, kind of like how a bird glides effortlessly. Later, man. It's a slow moving dude like a bird without wings. Man later. Oh, it is. It has man and it has later, but those are different. Anyways, dude, a snail is like a slow-moving mollusk with a spiral shell used for protection. It's like a bird that travels on its own pace. Later, man. Okay, anyways, you're gonna have to do your own testing yourself. I got much more stupid answers before when I was doing this. Now it's all rather reasonable. But anyways, so you can see how these different models are responding. And again, for your particular project, you can figure out which is best for you. Again, you look at that price point, you look at like the verbiage, how natural is the language, that type of thing, to figure out which model that you would want to go with. Let's see here. Then we go to prompt injection. So prompt injection is a very important thing to be thinking about in the modern world. One of the big problems that we have is when you're dealing with users, again, they try to anthropomorphize everything. They will try to tell you this remote control has feelings. It doesn't. Anyways, but it's a big problem. It's a big problem. Like, there's this, I don't know, how humans deal with technology is bizarre. Again, I've been doing technology since 1996. The most confusing thing to me is humans and technology. One of the things that you have to be careful about is when people are using systems, they put a lot of their own feelings and their own thought processes and their own biases on top of that system. Um, and then imagine that their system is kind of feeding them back the crap that they think. And so injection can either be a very useful thing or a very scary thing. So basically what injection does is since we've created this script, right? So we've created these scripts as I've showed you, is when you add additional information that the user may not know. One of the things we're going to do in the future for the Dolly, so for the image creation, is we're going to say add a bunny to everything. No matter what somebody asks for, add a bunny to it. One of the things you have to be careful about with this is from a systems point of view, from a technology point of view, injection can be very useful. Again, the idea of make sure the response that comes back is only 30 words, right? Or adding specific information into that request. So basically, you can do essentially an F string where you add additional information into that request in order to slant the request into a specific direction. So let's say if we create an AI answer system for coding. So let's say I'm going to create a system for my company. Basically, it's going to be for all of our programmers to be able to ask questions. And so one of the things that I may add as far as injection is concerned is only answer questions about coding. Don't do anything else, right? Or, you may get an HR person in there, and the HR person is worried about, the employees being depressed. It is funny. It is kind of funny. There's nothing more amusing than seeing somebody get paid $250,000 a year and be half suicidal at the exact same time, which really happens in our field. So, anyways, one of the injections might be is always make the response happy, right? So you ask a question about Python loops. And the AI might be, it's a joy to tell you about Python loops, right? You're injecting additional information, different additional bias into the system. The problem that you can get into, and this is where you have to be careful about, again, you get into politics, you get into religion, and you have things like AI systems, is people many times, they believe AI is truth. Again, AI is not AI. AI isn't even AI. It sure as hell isn't truth, right? But there's this idea that AI is smart, AI is intelligent. So if the AI tells me something, ergo it's truth. And so one of the things to be thinking about with the injection is you can slant biases in there, just like you can say always make the answer be happy. You could also say always make the answer relate somehow to X religion. I'm not going to go there. or Y political party or whatever else. Imagine if you create a platform. Imagine if you create an answer platform, something like Google, and every single response that comes back is slanted towards a very particular bias, right? How does that change people's mindsets and worldview? Um, is the kind of thing to be thinking about. One of the useful things is with prompt injection is you can either manually or dynamically add information to the request. And so one of the things you can look at is if somebody asks, "Who is my president?" Right? So if I go to OpenAI and I say, "Who is my president?" What is the OpenAI going to respond with? It doesn't know. Am I American? Am I French? Am I Brazilian? Whatever else. So one of the things you can do is you can do prompt injection to actually add that kind of additional information. And again, it basically skew what the answer will be. So we go and take a look at the injection script. And so, anyways, we're going to do the loop again because we did it before. With this, so from OpenAI, import OpenAI, client OpenAI, query, what are the national political parties? Right, again, imagine if I'm just a user, I'm asking for what the national political parties are. How the hell is OpenAI supposed to know? So what we're going to do is we're going to inject France into it, right? Then what we do is we come down here, role system, you provide answers to questions, content, I am from, and then we're injecting that value. So I am from France, right? Answer in 10 words or less, because I don't want this to be long, and the query, right? So the query is, what are the national political parties? The injection is France, so it should give me the appropriate response. Again, we loop through, and hopefully this will give us some funnier responses than we got before. Dun. There we go. And we can see how these answers are slightly different. 4-0, Republican, Socialist, La France, whatever that is, Greens, Nationality, Modem, LR. The mini gives us much more acronyms, LRIM, LRPS, RN, LFI, blah, blah, blah. GPT-4 gives us in France, there are several national parties, such as the Republicans, the République, blah, blah, blah. And then 3.5 Turbo actually then gives us some format in here. The main national political parties in France are, and it spells them out. So again, you can start to see how the different models are actually giving you different formatted responses as long as, and additionally, different information. If I can go do something basic like, when was my country founded? I don't know. Run this. So when was France founded? There we go. So 4-0, France's origins date back to the 5th century, Frankish kingdom. Mini, France was founded in 843 AD with the Treaty of Verdun. 4, France was founded in 843. Turbo, France's founding dates back to the 5th century, right? So it gives us some different information, but you'll notice there it's always for France. If I go here and I can just plug in China. So again, we're actually going to have a lab that will dynamically do this. So China was founded. Yeah, and so actually, like, okay, so thank you. Thank you for finally giving me different answers, you damn things. So we see 4-0, China was founded on October 1st, 49. 4-0 Mini, People's Republic of China, October 1st, 1949. 4, China was founded in 221 BC by Emperor Qin Shi Huang. And 3.5 also went to October 1, 1949. So again, this is one of those things that you need to be looking at is one of these answers is significantly different than the other. And this right here is the type of thing is why you need to do a lot of testing. And that's one of the problems you can have, especially with this OpenAI and this generative stuff when you're doing testing, is you may get answers that look good, 50 times in a row. And then, 51st through 70th time, everything goes to hell. So that's one of the things you need to be thinking about with doing making sure to do. Oh, testing. Christopher. What's up, Christopher?
Um, so I have a question about the, I guess what is it called? The messages. So you have a list of dictionaries. Are you sending all of that to OpenAI at one time to create the context for the question the user asked? Or is it like us entering, I am from France, enter, and then you're just building it manually? How is that happening in the background? Do you know?
So messages is a variable, and then this is a list. So basically, this is a list of dictionaries. So we have this dictionary, comma, this dictionary, comma, comma, comma. So this is a list of dictionaries that gets shipped up at one time.
Okay. So it's not sending it one at a time, like you're just building like a chat log, or is it just compiling one large like a prompt and it's just sending it? I'm just trying to understand what it looks like from the end, from I guess the end user typing it in on ChatGPT manually ourselves.
For you time. So when this gets sent up, so basically you have a set here. So within the parentheses, so basically you do model equals whatever the model is, comma, and then the next variable when that set is messages. Messages is a list, and then within that list, you're sending the dictionaries. If you want to, if you're talking about you just typing stuff out, all you do is you do Control C, Control V, make sure the damn thing is spaced right, and then you just add, oops, ah, then you just add whatever you want to add right there. Does that make sense? Oh, wait, here. Yeah, don't mute yourself. I gotta have to put it. Yeah, there you go. Oh, you're still muted. Unmute.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it possible? So do you need to create those three prompts separately of each other? Can you create one nested like F string that contains all of that? Do you have to create them in that format where you have three different roles or whatever it may be?
So you need a system role. So you definitely need a system role, and you need at least one user role. So yeah, test. As far as I know, you could do one nasty ass F string and just dump it all as one query. What this does though is it's again, there's a difference between functionality and readability. Like this is much easier to read. It's like, okay, this is my injection, this is my X, this is my Y. Whereas if this is just a nasty ass F string, it most likely will work fine, but God help the person coming in behind you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Any other questions? No, cool. Okay. Um, and then we get the Dolly images. So this is really easy, like so simple to get pictures done. So DALL-E is OpenAI's image creation system now, and it's really nice. So again, I've been doing these classes a year and a half, blah, blah. DALL-E 2 was a really cool proof of concept. If anybody has watched my classes that I did using DALL-E 2 like a year ago, again, it was really cool concept, but it was truly nightmare fuel. Like you would plug in something and it would give you a picture that might scare you as an adult. One of the things I will tell you is DALL-E 3 is actually really damn good. I have to say, like truly, DALL-E 3 is the type of thing that you can use, and it's basically gonna give you whatever the hell's that you want. One of the things we think about when you use DALL-E, to be very careful, again, we talk about architecture, is when you make a request to DALL-E, what it's going to do is it's going to give you back a URL for where the image has been stored. Because again, that's one of the big things to be thinking about this whole architecture thing is like, where the hell is the file? And when we start getting into more sophisticated projects, this becomes a bigger and bigger pain in the ass of like you think, oh, I want OpenAI or whatever to do something with this file. It's like, yeah, but how do you get that file to OpenAI? And how do you have any measure of security and any number of other things? So anyway, so with Dolly, what they do is they give you a link, a URL to the image that has been created. That URL, horseshoes and hand grenades, lasts about an hour. So one of the things you have to be careful about is if you simply take that URL, you dump it in the database, you do some testing, you verify it works, and you walk away, just realize by tomorrow, none of those images will exist anymore. So you do need to download those images. When you talk about architecture, again, you could use something like wget if you're using Linux. You could fire that off with like an OS module command. With Python, straight with Python, you can actually use git. You save using a WB. So we've talked about dealing with files before, right? W is basically overwrite, either create the file or overwrite. A is append. R is read. There's also WBs or the Bs, and basically that's for bytes or bits. Huh. Is it bit or byte? Might be bit. Anyways, it's basically for data. So you're saving the entire file to your computer, and we'll go over that. So that's an important thing. So we take a look at Dolly first. And Dolly, where's my Dolly? Dolly is this one. Okay. So again, all we're doing is importing OpenAI. So this all comes from the exact same module. Client equals OpenAI, like we had before. We have a query. Again, what kind of image do we want? A dog on the moon with a taco. All right. Anyway, so the response here, so this is different. Client.images.generate. So this is how you get an image. Model equals DALL-E3. Again, I would highly recommend you stay with DALL-E3 unless you're doing just some troubleshooting proof of concept. Now, it does cost 4 cents per image. So if you do this too much, might get expensive, but at least you get some decent images. Prompt equals whatever the query is. So you could manually put a query in here. Again, I just like you doing the variables. N equals, be damn careful about this. Be careful about. This is how many images it will produce at one time. So 4 cents times 1 equals 4 cents. Well, 4 cents times whatever the hell you put in there can be very expensive, especially if you keep running through it. So again, that's going to be one of the things to be thinking about with the system that you're creating. Like it may make sense, right? Let's say you're creating an app for your marketing department. Again, this is all generative images. So every time it generates, you're going to get another damn image. So having them ask like one image at a time might suck for them. So again, if they're willing to budget for it, you may put n equals 10. So every time they make a request, they get back 10 images, and then they can simply select the image they want, right? 40 cents for the image that's appropriate is still less than $100 an hour you're going to spend for a graphic designer. So that might make sense. So to be careful about this, when you look at the examples that they give you, if you simply copy paste the example, it does default that n equals 2. So you'd be paying 8 cents instead of 4 cents every time you do the request. So anyways, while you're playing around, drop it down to that. Oh, that is incorrect. Anyways, we got multiple image sizes for Dolly 3. Those aren't the right ones, though. I need to modify that. So with Dolly 2, if you do Dolly 2, the image sizes were, oh, how did that get screwed up? Sorry. 4 by 1. 4. Anyways, if you dealt with Dolly 2, you get small image sizes, 256 by 256, 512 by 512, and 1024 by 1024. That was for Dolly 2. For Dolly 3, it starts at 1024 by 1024, and then you have two larger resolutions. I think we get into that in the lab. I'll show you that there. One of the nice things with Dolly 3 is, if you notice, 1024 by 1024 is a square. And so one of the big problems you had before is like in the web content world, for whatever reason, the default ratio for images is a rectangle. And so one of the problems you had is if you're automatically creating images with DALL-E, if they come as squares, that didn't fit into a lot of content that people were creating. One of the nice things with DALL-E 3 is they have 1024 by 1024, which is a square, But then their other two ratios are actually rectangles. One is a horizontal rectangle, the other is a vertical rectangle. So that actually fits into people's workflows a lot better. So anyways, yeah, model, Dolly 3, number, size. And then here we're just going to do that whole print out the response created, hold on, so forth. So let me do this. Just take a second. There. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to print out the response. We're going to print out the response, and then we're just doing a line in between. And so when we take a look at the response, we get this. So we get the created. So this is a timestamp. We're going to use that in a lab just as a way of naming things. Data equals image. B64 JSON equals none. Revised prompt. So this is actually an interesting thing. So what you put in the prompt, a dog on the moon with a taco, and that's not sophisticated enough. So one of the interesting things that they do is they actually flesh out that prompt for you to try to give Dolly a better prompt than what you're giving it. And so again, this is also like when we talk about injection, right? This is an interesting thing, right? I'm saying I want a dog on the moon with a taco. This is what's actually getting sent to DALL-E. An image of a dog on a lunar surface. The dog is sitting comfortably as if there is an invisible gravity pull. Its fur is reflecting the pale silvery moonlight, and its eyes are shining with curiosity while looking at the empty expanse. Blase, blase, blase. So anyways, this is the whole response. If we just want to print out like the created, so again, that's for like the timestamp. You do response created, and that just gives us the timestamp. If we want the revised prompt for whatever reason, so again, maybe we want to store this in the database. Again, let's say for search functionality. Again, one of the things to be thinking about. So let's say we download the image and we're storing the image, but then if we have thousands of images, right, that AI creates, how are we going to create a taxonomy around those images so that we can do something like search? So if I save that revised prompt into the database along with the image location, that gives me some more stuff to work out. And so that's where we have that. So an image of the dog, blase, blase, blase. And then here is the URL. So the most important thing out of this is to get the URL. So response.data at index 0 URL. And this is our URL. And I hit command and I can click on it. I can hit open. And there we go. We have a dog on the moon with a taco. Yeah. And again, as you can see, it's as obnoxious as that prompt was, it's really not a very bad image. So that's basically how DALL-E works. If we want to do the download, what we do is, this is what we do. So from OpenAI, import OpenAI, we're going to use the request module. So again, the request module, you have to install it. Python 3-m pip install requests. But we're going to use the get function. Client equals OpenAI, query equals a dog on the moon. Let's say with a hat. Same thing, response equals, generate images, DALL-E with the query number 1, 1024 by 1024. Same crap we had before. So one of the things to be thinking about is when we download an image, we have to create a file name for it. All right, so here, I'm just going to do a very simple timestamp for the file name. So we're using an F string. So pick name is going to do response .created.png. So the file type that they create is a .png file, so it has to be .png, and then you have to put some freaking name here. Again, this is going to be one of those things for you folks to think about. Timestamp, since we're doing this relatively slowly, I feel comfortable using a timestamp here. If you're going to start using this at scale, you have to come up with some naming convention system that'll work for you. That's up to you. But anyways, this is just going to be the name. Image, response image equals get response.data0.url, right? So this is the URL, and we're going to use that get function, and we're going to assign that value to response underscore image. Then what we need to do here is with open, so we're going to open pick name, right? So that picture that we created, we're going to use that. We're going to use WB. So W means either create or overwrite. So it'll create the image. B is for bits or bytes, whatever. Basically, it means the entire file, right? As file. Then here we do file.write response underscore image dot content. So response image dot content, that is going to be written to the pick name. If we then run this, again, not the fastest thing in the world, whether it matters for your application. All right, so it's printing everything out, so it shows that. Then I can go here to Eli. So again, everything by default with Python is going to go to my user's root directory. We can see I have an image file, 17229.72701. That was just the timestamp. I can double click on that, and there we go. I have a dog with a hat on the moon, and this is actually saved to my computer. All right, and so that's going to be the important thing. Again, it's just a little bit of code, and that will then save it to your system, and you can do whatever you want with it past that. Um, so there we go. We're going to go into the labs next. So up until this point, are there any questions? Any questions? Everybody good? All right, everybody's good. We'll go into the lab, show you how the labs work. Okay. So this lab is an About Me lab. So basically what this is going to do, so we dealt with the REST APIs before. So I don't know, a couple of days ago, last week, whatever, we did it with REST APIs. One of the REST APIs that's really cool is there's an API that allows you to get geographic information about your location simply based off of your IP address, right? So you can use the get, it goes there, it grabs your IP address, it queries a database about information about your IP address, and then, right, then you can do stuff where you get a JSON response back, and then you can do something based off of that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a variable nationality, and basically I'm going to assign the value of nationality based off of where I'm from, and then I can ask questions, right? So, all right, Tunnel Bear is on. Let's see, Tunnel Bear is on the United States. So again, so Tunnel Bear, VPN, so I'll get an IP address in the United States. So I can run this and I can say, oh, when was my country founded? July 4th, 1776. Who is my president? Joe Biden is your president, right? That makes sense. Now, the cool part, though, and again, this is where you need to be thinking about creating your code to be dynamic, is, I don't know, and click on Poland. I know nothing about Poland, right? Wait for my VPN service. There we go. So when you swap, if you have a VPN and you do this, kill your script, restart your script because it grabs this information when the script initializes. But anyways, now we can run this, and I can say, who is my president? And I don't know, my president's Duda, apparently. What is my currency? The Polish zloty, right? And so basically, this is now giving me information from AI based off of, where I actually am. If we take a look at this, again, this code is pretty simple. OpenAI request get, and we're going to import OS just so we can clear the screen. Client equals OpenAI before, as we did before. Nationality equals, so this is a REST request, a REST API request. So get You go here and you go basically to this URL link. It will give you back this geographic information. We use the method .json, so it's formatted as JSON, so we can actually grab the values out. Then we're simply going to say nationality equals the nationality at the country index. So that'll give me the country, whatever country I am, and that's now nationality. OS.system, again, for usability, we're going to clear the screen. Mac and Linux, the command is clear. Windows is CLS. And then simply, while true, continuous loop. Query equals input. So the input function is simply going to ask you what the question is. Then once you type in the question and hit enter, it'll clear the screen. Then we're going to do completion. This is that completions thing that we did before. Here I'm using the 4.0 mini model. Role system content, you provide answers to questions. Role user content, I am from that nationality. Answer in 10 words or less. I don't want to book about this. And here is what my question is. We come down, we simply print out what the query is. So what was your question? And then completion.choices, index 0, message.content, and that's what gives you the answer. All right, so this is a way that we can communicate with OpenAI using a bit of dynamic information. Because again, that's one of the big things to be thinking about. Why programming is powerful is so many times, like when we're teaching stuff, I have to manually input variable values, and that's worthless. Nobody's going to pay you 150 bucks an hour for manually inputted variable values. Where this becomes valuable is if you're pulling this from databases. You're pulling this from databases. You're pulling this this information from systems that the user isn't even noticing. That's when you really get a lot of that dynamic, cool stuff. Let's see here. Then past that, we can do an auto blog. So we're going to do more on this on Thursday. So we're going to have that web scraping class with OpenAI. Basically, what this does is it allows us to create an automatic blog. So basically, we say what we want the post to be, and it will write the post. So hopefully this will work. So title for a blog post. Why you should eat a taco on the moon. Because, there we go. So it gives me some of this. This isn't the cool part, though. Why tacos are better than pizza, which is ridiculous. Pizza is the best food in the world. And why a gerbil is bigger than the Titanic. I don't know. So anyways, as you can see, so it gives me a title. Why is a gerbil bigger than the Titanic? It writes this out on the screen. Fine, whatever. Again, the important thing to be thinking about, though, is things like data stores. And so this is actually writing, so it's appending to a blog.html file. So if you put this file onto a web server, you could actually have this, be seen from the internet. And what we have here, oops, come on, is an actual web page that was being created with OpenAI. Why you should eat a taco. Anyways, you gotta be careful. A taco on the moon. Eating a taco on the moon offers a unique blend of adventure and novelty. I'm sure it does. The serene lunar landscape and its breathtaking views of Earth provides the perfect backdrop for a culinary experience. So it writes that blog post. Why are tacos better than pizza? Tacos are undeniably better than pizza for several reasons. And I hate to say, once you start playing with this, and then you start reading Gizmodo, oh, it's gonna seem like Gizmodo is written by worse than AI. Anyways, right? First, the versatility offers for an endless array of fillings from savory meats to fresh vegetables. Blase blase. Why a gerbil is bigger than the Titanic? At first glance, the notion of a gerbil, that a gerbil could be bigger than the Titanic, seems absurd, as the Titanic was a colossal ocean liner measuring approximately 882 feet. However, if we approach this concept metaphorically, we can explore the idea of perception versus reality. A gerbil, though physically tiny can have a monumental impact on an owner's life. So, you know, perception versus reality. It all does that in, well, about as fast as you saw. So for this, it's pretty simple. From OpenAI, import OS, client equals, OS system clear, or CLS if you're Windows. While true, so this allows you to just keep putting in things, seeing what the hell the response will be. Title equals, input title for blog post. And then I put the title method here. So again, this is a bit of sanitization. Horrible, crappy. So anyway, so I can type something in, but if it's supposed to be a title, right, the first letter in each word should be capitalized. So the title method does that. So I put in the title, I clear the screen, completion equals, right? We're going to use the mini. We're going to say you are a blogger. Again, we're going to say write a 100-word essay. So this could be a 100-word essay. This could be a 10,000-word essay. Anyways, you can put in whatever else, and then you simply plug in the title. And so it will write the article for you. The story equals, completion choice is 0, message content, as we've done before. With open, we're going to open blog.html. We're going to use A for append as file, file.write, f string, h2, heading 2, what the title is, close h2, file.write, p, story, close p. Formatting the response that comes back from OpenAI for things like blogs and webs, that becomes its own thing with for loops and stuff. We're not doing that right now. So basically, this is just going to put the title within an HQ tag and the story within P tags. It can get more complicated. We're not doing that today, though. Then we're going to simply print out the title on the screen. And we're going to print out the story just as a troubleshooting procedure to show what was happening. And so that's basically how you can get a very simple auto blog. The final thing then is the lab gallery. Here, we're going to start adding some of the lessons that we've learned along the way. So we're going to create a custom function. So again, we did the class on functions whenever we did the class on functions. Remember, functions are used for reusability. So you create one chunk of code, and then you can simply call this code in the future. And so that's why we have this function here. We also have a bias for add a bunny. Whatever we do, we're going to add a bunny to it. And let me show you this gallery that we're going to create. So it's going to ask an image, tanks at war. So it's going to go through, going to take a couple seconds to create the image. Again, this is the other thing you have to think about in production at scale. 5 or 10 seconds for me isn't too bad. 5 or 10 seconds, if you've got to go through and iterate through 10,000 blog posts or something, that might take a while. So we get a response. So all I'm printing out here is that the 200 works. So 200 means that I actually got a response. Tanks at war, add a bunny, right? I don't know. Space Marines fighting orcs. I'll go through. We'll do this 4 times just so you can kind of see the response. Oops. Your request was rejected as a result of our safety system. Yes. Oh, yeah. I should have a try, accept thing here. I didn't, just to keep it simple. A war between Space Marines and orcs. I literally did this prompt like 2 hours ago. Anyways, I think that's something you have to design into your system too. Like part of doing this is seeing where the hell OpenAI fails out. And OpenAI can fail out in some really weird ways. Their whole safety system is whatever. So yeah, that went through. So I got a 200 response on that. Let's see, say a taco on the moon. Da-da-da. There we go. We got a 200 and dolphins in soup. So what it's doing is we're creating the images, we're saving the images, and then we're also saving the location of the images within an SRC tag into a gallery. So dolphins in soup, add a bunny. We can then go back here. We can see that a gallery.html page was created, and I can double click on this, and there we go. I gotta say, everything is better with the bunny in it. Tanks at war with the bunny. Oh, that's awesome. I did say it. Actually, I did say it right. So we have the Space Marines against an orc, and you have the bunny. We have the moon with a taco and a bunny, and then we have dolphins in soup with a bunny. And again, if you actually look at the image quality, it's absolutely ridiculous, but it does work. If we go and take a look at this, then the script, OpenAI, request get, import OS. So we're going to add a bias to this, add a bunny. We're going to have a function for the query. We'll talk about that in a second. Close that up. So while true, query equals input image to create. Query is then going to equal an F string query space bias. Do make sure to put that space in there. So this is what the bias is going to be. Add a bunny. OS system clear the screen. Response equals AI function with that query value. So we're going to send this whole query value up to the AI function. If we take a look at this, so we have client equals OpenAI. I put that here just in case there's any wonkiness with the operating system. So this is going to redo the connection for OpenAI. Response equals client images generate, DALL-E, that prompt that we sent in. Image number is 1, size equals 1024 by 1024, and then we're going to return the response. So we're going to get the response back from the query, and then we're going to return that entire response value back. Once we have that, then here, we're going to do the pick name. So response.created.png. So this will be a timestamp with .png at the end. Response image. So we're going to get the image, get response, zero data, zero URL with open, the picture name, write in bytes, as file, file.write, response image, content, is that content? And then what we're also going to do is we're going to write to a gallery page. So with open gallery.html, we're going to append to that. We're going to add to that as gallery, gallery.write, f string, image, style, height equals 200 pics, width is auto, so whatever the auto is, src equals what that picture name is. So this gallery is going to be saved in the exact same folder that the rest of the images are. So we just do that. We're going to simply print out the query, and we're going to print out the response image so we know, and that is what gets us the gallery with a bunny in it. So that all makes sense. That is basic. That is the class. That's not basically the class. That is the class for today. So that's the class, and those are the labs. There any questions? Any questions with what I just showed you? Nope, you guys are a quiet group today. Okay, so I don't even know what time it is. It is 3:50. So I'll stick around for about 20. Oops. Oh, we got questions. Okay. Christopher's first. Asked unmute. Yes, Christopher. Yep.
Question would be, so if you have an OpenAI subscription, do you get access to use the APIs kind of as much as you want, or it's a separate pricing tier for using the ChatGPT 4.0 versus using the API to access the same features? Is it priced differently?
Yeah, so so I have the ChatGPT. I pay $20 a month because it's useful. But no, the API is its own pricing scheme. So yeah, that's probably too small for you.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically that's where went through and we talked about this pricing with a fifth of a penny or whatever per thousand tokens. So this is what you'll get charged if you use the API, and you need to go into OpenAI and create an account there, not ChatGPT, to get this access. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This and one last question. So for the choices, you have like choices.0. Do you ever use like one? Like how do you know like is I'm guessing you just look at the API documentation to see choices.0 is what you needed for what you
So no, well, what you really do is you print things out. So you will print like the response. So the data is zero. So I keep asking for one response. So if I got multiple responses, I would loop through this to get the URLs. So if I asked for five responses, I would do a for loop on response dot data. That would be the value. And then I would say print URL for each one of the responses that came back.
so can we see what the response dumped out by itself without the zero looks like? This the raw data format?
Yeah, yeah. Let's see here. Where was my Dolly thing? So this is Dolly. Yeah. Well, there we go. I'll do three images. Let's do a bunny on the moon with a taco. All right. So bunny on the moon with a taco. That's gonna take a second. Oh, fuck. What? You must provide n equals one for this model? Oh, funny. You can't do n equals. Let's see, do Dolly 2 then. Okay, so apparently Dolly 3, you can't ask for three images at one time. So we did Dolly 2. Again, the image quality will be much worse, but there we go. Ugh, Christ. Yeah. Oh, fuck. Yeah. Okay.
So that's kind of what it looks like. Okay. I just wanted to see what the raw like
Yeah. See. So, okay. Image response create. So this is data. We open that bracket there. So that's when we say zero. So that would be index one. And then we go down. Oh yeah. Okay. See how there's that comma there? So this is the second image. So this is the link for the first index. And this would be the link for the second index. See that URL. And then there's the next comma or whatever. Whatever. So this would be the next link.
okay.
Okay,
So
yeah.
that
So there's the yeah.
so you do that with text responses as well. So when you're asking it a question like what country or what's your president, I realize you put zero for that as well. Does it usually give back more than one response? You have to put zero?
No, it's how this stuff. So how they do, I guess. Yeah, I guess you might be able to get multiple responses somehow. Again, everything that I've seen for that kind of thing, you only get one response, and so for whatever reason, they still put that into a list with a single index for some reason. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's all I had to ask.
Okay. Cool. Somebody else had their hand up. Did Jonathan have their hand up or somebody? No, Jonathan. Yep.
Okay. Thanks. Well, I was checking. I created my account, OpenAI. Going to the part of, well, the token and everything, but I have to buy credits first. I wanted to know what limit. Well, I wanted to get some credits, but then I saw that there were limits, and I'm trying to understand the limit thing and what would be a reasonable limit. Do I just put the credit card and let it rip?
No,
Or
fuck no. Fuck no. No,
of
no,
course
no,
not.
no. Do not do that.
That's why I want to put a limit before, or do I buy credits? How does this work? Do you buy credits,
So,
use the credits, or you just add the credit card on it?
so yeah, so you go boom. So one of the things is like with billing. So you'll notice here, This is the big one. Auto recharge is off. So
Okay.
how they used to do it is the more standard. It's something like every $20 or whatever. Basically, they would allow you to burn so many credits, and then once you hit like $20 or something, they would charge your credit card. So now what they do is, yeah, you do put money. Again, it's been a while since I actually bought any credits. You do put money in beforehand now. I thought it was like $5. Maybe it's a little bit more, $10 or something. And then again, if this was a production environment, we can say is auto recharge. So when you burn through your five, then it just keeps
Mhm.
rebilling, rebilling, rebilling.
Mhm.
You don't fucking do
No, of course.
that. Yeah. And then beyond that, like I say, is the limits.
Because they speak in tokens, in terms of tokens,
Yeah.
60,000 tokens per minute or things like that.
Yeah, so then you go to limits here. And then I see what I do here is I set a monthly budget and then I just put that to $5 too. Um,
Okay.
because
So
again,
you can actually put like a dollar amount or the equivalent in tokens of
no,
it.
it's a dollar amount. So this is a dollar amount. Yeah. So you go to organization. So billing was the auto recharge, and then limits, you do your monthly, and then you can also do an email notification. So if you hit whatever, it'll email you that there at that point.
Okay. Well, that part is different, I think, because I haven't started using it yet. I don't have that layout for limits. It just says like you're in the free tier, da 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 da.
Oh, if you're
Like,
in the free tier. Oh, they've got a free tier again? Because they got rid of the free tier for a little while.
yeah. Yeah, that's what I wasn't sure. It seemed like I had to pay because in credits it said I have 0 credits, but then when I go to usage limits, it doesn't have that sort of limit that you're showing. It's a little
Huh.
bit different. Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe afterwards I'll create another account. Because when I started this, again, a year and a half ago, they will give you like $18 over 3 months to burn through. But they actually gave you a budget of that. You would be told you had 18 bucks. I thought they got rid of all the free stuff a little while ago. So I'm not quite sure where that then.
Oh, okay. Then I'll just see
Yeah.
when this blocks itself and
Yeah.
okay. Okay, thanks. I'll try the TPD toppity.
All right. Anybody else got questions? Okay. So yeah, I'll stick around till I don't know, 4:15, 4:20. If you have any problems with this, raise your hand in Zoom, and I'll try to help walk you through this. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, before anybody else drops off though, so we are doing the web scraping class on Thursday. So that'll be we're going to be using OpenAI, and with that, I'm going to be trying to show you again more how these systems work. So we're going to be using Beautiful Soup. So what Beautiful Soup does is allows you to scrape web pages for specific information and only that information. So we're going to use Beautiful Soup. We're going to use something called Feed Parser. Feed Parser allows you to parse XML files, so RSS feeds. And then we're also probably going to do, there's a YouTube transcript module. So we can actually grab YouTube transcripts and then ask questions based off of that. So we're going to do those classes on Thursday. Um, Hopefully coming up probably in September because my month is just screwed past this point. We're gonna start doing things like bottle. So like I'm showing all you this stuff now. The problem is you have to build to get to where you're going. And so bottle is a web app framework. And so we're actually going to start building web apps. And we can have the web apps using this kind of AI backend in order to do interesting things in an actual web page. So you can actually create a web page with the app and have it do whatever it is that you want to do for your users. So that'll be coming in like September, but it's like we gotta go through the whole process to build to get there. Christopher, yep.
So when you're doing the environmental variable setting
Yep.
in Linux in Python, when you were to go to if you were to go to the terminal outside of your IDE and you were to do $, the environmental variable name and echo,
Yeah.
does, does it set it as a permanent variable on your computer so that you can always reference it, or it's only done for how does that work? Like I tried doing the echo thing after I set it in the script you created, but I can't figure out how to actually address it in the terminal to see it again.
Yeah, so again, basically at the end of all this, getting this running, for whatever reason, it only worked if as it goes to docs, quick start. So what I ended up having to do, and again, I've got to troubleshoot this in the future, is for Mac, I had to end up doing the nano slash forward slash dot ZSHRC. And basically, when I edited that file and added in the information, um, then it worked properly. The other things didn't. I'm probably doing the wrong click when I do it, but I'm not quite sure. And that's where I say, unfortunately, with this stuff, it's a system sometimes. I've got to troubleshoot what the problem is, but this is what worked for me on a newer Mac. Because yeah, I did the Python, like the Python, the setting, the environmental variable. And what's weird, and yeah, I've got to troubleshoot it. So in the script itself, so I could set the environmental variable in the script and then call the environmental variable in the same script, and it worked. So here's my API key, and then it spits it back out to me. And then I go to any goddamn thing else, and it doesn't. So
That's what I did. Okay, I was like, okay, I'm the only one. Okay, cool.
yeah.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, that's so the environmental variable is a pain in the ass because I know because man, again, that's where on basic, like I say, this is how you can run these scripts. So you put this on the top of all your scripts, and you can just plug in that API key directly here. So again, make sure to comment it, right. But you create a variable for the key, and then you put what the key is. And then for this, instead of client equals just the function, you do client equals OpenAI, API underscore key equals whatever that variable name is. And then you should be able to run all these scripts, no problem. So this functionally works perfectly from an administrative and a security standpoint. It's crap, but if it's your lab computer, whatever. Oh, no trolls this session, yeah. I forgot to even open up the chat thing. It's good there are no trolls. I forgot about chat today. So just as an FYI, I was playing with some things, and for the environment variable, I can set the environment variable, and if I run the Python script in terminal, everything works fine. Everything works great. When I try to run the Python script and grab the environment variable in VS Code, it farts out. Why? Do not know. That'll be troubleshooting for next week. Looks like OpenAI wants me to pay. Message, you exceed your quota. Huh. But I already had an account for ChatGPT, but never used it for OpenAI API. Yeah, the ChatGPT account is different than the API account. So yeah, you have to dump $5 or whatever in to make that work. Oh, cool. You're finishing the labs first, but will they work? Will they function? So, okay, it is 4:20, so I have some stuff to do tonight. Is there, you guys have any questions? You guys done? Done enough? Good. Cool. Okay. Thursday, we'll have the next class. And I would recommend you copy and paste that little Zoom link somewhere before Thursday in case Meetup fails again, which might actually happen. So yeah, it's been fun as always. See you guys next class.